So as part of this module, we've mentioned several states, and over the various lectures we've seen members in various different states. So I just thought I'd spend some time actually talking about some of those states and what they actually mean. Currently there are 11 states that a MongoDB instance can have. There may be room to add more or reasons to add more later on, but at the moment it's 11. First one, or state 0, is startup. And this is the first state that a replica set member is actually going to enter. All members start up in this state, as you might imagine. What the MongoDB is actually doing when it's in the startup state is it's parsing the config document for the replica set and deciding how to apply that. So this state is not going to last too long. And what you'll end up doing is going into startup 2 very quickly. This is a state 5, because this is how they're actually listed in our reference documentation. What the MongoDB is doing at this point is forking some replication and election threads. So it starts up, forks, whatever way you want to say it. So threads are forked for replication and election. It'll start reaching out to other members of the set to decide who to sync from, etc., etc. Assuming it's actually a secondary. If it's the primary, then it's going to be the sync source for the others. If it's the secondary, it's going to be reaching out and seeing what to sync from. We're spinning up things to take part in elections, add its vote to the process. An interesting note is that in state 0, state 5, in startup or startup 2, they actually cannot vote while in this state. This is kind of your preparation for joining in the elections, things like that, but before you do that, you can't vote. A couple of the other more common ones that you're going to see, state 1 is primary, which is exactly what it sounds like. Of course, you're able to vote at this point. The primary is the only one to accept write operations, and of course it can vote. State 2, secondary, again pretty straightforward, this one here. It can vote, it can service reads, it replicates from the primary or from another secondary. Both of those states can vote. State 3 is recovering. You'll see recovering in sort of two basic scenarios. You'll see it before something goes into a rollback, or it can be the state that a secondary or former primary goes into while it's catching up, or resyncing from scratch. Catching up to the set, resyncing from scratch, those are both very, very similar operations. While something is in recovering, it can vote. So it will be contributing to elections and everything else. Continuing on the other states, we've covered 5 so far, leaves us 6 more to go. You've got state 4, which is fatal. This is not a good state to find your MongoDB in. A MongoDB that is in a fatal state has encountered a serious error. An error that is so serious, in fact, that is unrecoverable. So basically, this MongoDB instance has tried to start, tried to join a replica set, has encountered such a serious error that it has decided that it's unrecoverable, it's impossible for it to reach a good state, and it has just entered into the fatal state and essentially given up. When a member is in this state, it cannot vote. It can't contribute to elections, even if it's there and it has a view of all the other members. So at this point, you're going to take this MongoDB instance down. You're going to examine its logs, attempt to discover what went wrong, and attempt to fix it. If this was a secondary and you had a good primary and another good secondary, what I'd recommend is wipe the data files and have it resync from scratch after you've done your sort of due diligence in terms of determining what might have caused the problem. If, for example, this is a bad disk or memory errors or something similar on the system that might be causing this problem, you may need to replace the host entirely or replace the hard disk, etc., etc. If everything checks out, wipe the data and have it resync from scratch. We already covered state 5, startup 2, because it was related to the first state, the state 0. So we're going to skip over that one again. The next state is state 6, that is unknown. Now, rather than this being something that an existing member will end up in, this is a host that's never actually successfully connected to the replica set. So this might be, you know, that you've stood up, is having some sort of problem, or is having some sort of issue communicating, or something along those lines. Basically, it's in an unknown state. The other members are not sure what's going on with this guy, and it also cannot vote. So if you have a member in a state unknown and it shouldn't be, then again, you want to be looking in the logs to see what the problem is. You might have some sort of routing issue to the rest of the set. You might have some sort of problem communicating with the rest of the set. Maybe there's a firewall rule blocking it in one direction. But something strange is going on here if this is supposed to be a valid set member that was able to join and continue on. State 7 is one of the more straightforward ones. Arbiter. That's a state that something that you've done the add arbiter command on will be in. Its sole purpose is to vote in elections, so of course it can vote. State 8 is state down. This is a host that has been determined to be completely inaccessible. Obviously cannot vote. It's not taking part currently in the set. So what you'll see if you actually take something and shut it down, remove it from the set, say as part of your rolling maintenance that we covered earlier. State number 9 is rollback. A recovering state can be a precursor to rollback, and it can end up in a rollback state. In rollback, you are allowed to vote. You can take part in elections, but it's currently in a rollback state. And then finally, 10 is shunned. And it's possibly still up and functioning, but it's actually been removed from the set. So it can't vote, and it's just listed as shunned because it's still possibly responding to things on a particular port. Again, a pretty rare state. You're not going to see this too often. The most common ones by far are going to be, well, states 0 and 5 when you're initializing or bringing a member into the set. And then your most common states are going to be 1 primary, 2 secondary, 7 arbiter. The rest are all going to be much more niche and rare in terms of when they actually show up.